Hello, boys and germs. It's your favorite maniac of mayhem, the Syntax Sorcerer. Today we're going to be doing another short lesson that's going to be super fun. While statements, as you can see on my screen, I have it written out in a comment for you at a time, so you can skip ahead with me. All right, so while statements, while loops are really easy. It's just something that's going to continue to happen till the parameters are met, right? So while I'm counting to 5, do this, right? Do X. Super, super easy. So I'm going to do a simple code. We're going to step through it together, and then I'm going to give you, like I always do, the break it down as if I'm 5 years old. So we're going to start with our variables, right? And some people like this, some people don't. I don't care. I like it. It cleans up my code. So we're going to do int I equals 0. Integer I equals 0. And then with that, we're going to skip right into it. While, let's do I is less than 5. Let's say 5, right? Oop, it already filled those in for me. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it. We'll do a console.writeLine. Oh, need to add my parentheses in there. Current value of I. Let's not capitalize it so we're not confusing some of the newer players with us. Yes, I called you players. Plus I. All right. I think that's how I want to do it. And we'll explain again. Don't worry, guys. We're going to explain it in a minute. Plus plus. All right. And that is literally it. All right. So what's going to happen? Our integer I is set to 0. While I is less than 5, console is going to display the current value of I, and then it's going to add 1 to I, and it's going to add the last value of I on there as well. So let's go ahead and run it. And guess what? I did turn off my antivirus this time, so we're not going to get yelled at. Like my mom yelling at me from the basement. Boom! All right, so value of I is 0 plus 1. Value of I is 1, 2, 3, 4. Till it hits 5. Boom. It's done, right? So now, let's go on and explain it a little bit, and then we're going to break it down like we're 5. So the while loop will continue executing the block of code inside its curly braces as long as the condition of I is less than 5. While loop continues to loop inside, let's say inside the curly braces as long as the condition of I is less than 5 is true, right? All right. So that's basically it for that, right? We're gonna break it down. Don't worry, for those of you that are still trying to get used to coding, I always break it down for like like teach me like I'm 5, so that way we kind of all learn together. This always helps me remember how to do things too, as it's called the rubber ducky method. What it is I teach my rubber ducky that I have in front of me, and you can't see him. Maybe one day I'll show you guys George, but George is a little cowboy rubber ducky that sits in front of me, and I explain to George exactly what I'm doing. So now, here's how I'm going to explain it to you guys. You are the rubber ducky, and so is George. Imagine you have a toy car and a track with checkpoints. Each time you pass that checkpoint, you get a sticker. Now let's look at the code, right? So we're setting up the track with int is I equals 0, right? The integer of I is equal to 0. That's the beginning of the track with your toy car. You're at the very first checkpoint labeled 0. 0 is the very first checkpoint on a racetrack, right? No, we should probably racetrack. All right. So now the loop, right? The loop. So while I is less than 5, this is like saying as long as I haven't passed 5 checkpoints, then it's going to keep going, right? So inside the loop, right? So now what's happening inside the loop? All right. So the console.writeLine, and I'm not going to write it all fancy, Doing the, we're going to write it more as pseudocode, current value of I, and then I put like this, right? And then I did a plus I right here. And I told you guys I was going to explain that. So here what I'm saying is every time I pass a checkpoint, checkpoint. Every time I pass a checkpoint, I want to shout out which checkpoint number I'm at and show it. We'll leave that for now. All right. So then we're going to say moving forward. So then the I plus plus right there. This line is like you're moving your toy car. Moving your geez. This is like moving. Man, I cannot think. I haven't had my meds today. Leave me alone, guys. Don't insert. Moving like your toy car to the next checkpoint. I've had a glass of wine. Leave me alone, guys. I couldn't even remember where I was. All right. And you're adding 1 to the checkpoint number. Oh my gosh. Don't judge me. Oh, you know what? We're just moving on. All right, guys, we're just moving on. So if you were at checkpoint 0, now you're at checkpoint 1. Right? And it's different from this is different from this. This is adding on to that I integer. This is displaying the value of itself, basically, right? So we're not displaying anything here. We're saying the current value of I is, and then we're saying plus so that the computer knows, that the program knows what to do, right? And right here, boom, I. And then it's going to add, now it's I 0, I 1, I. So now I is changed to 1 here. It's going to display 1. Now add 1 to 1, it's 2. So we're just going to keep moving like that till it's 5, and then we're going to break the loop, right? Okay. So looping back, right? We'll say looping back. So looping back, after passing the checkpoint and moving forward, the loop goes back to the second step like I was just explaining, and it checks if you've passed through less than 5 checkpoints. If yes, it repeats. So after passing a checkpoint and moving forward, you didn't see any of this. You guys saw none of this. After passing the checkpoint and moving forward, the loop goes back to the second step before we move on too far and checks to see if you've passed through less than 5 checkpoints. If yes, it repeats. If not, it stops. Right? Too easy. All right, let's say finishing the race. Okay. So finishing the race, once you've passed through 5 checkpoints and reached checkpoint 5, quote unquote, the loop stops because the condition is no longer true. I is no longer less than 5. Then you can celebrate because you finished. All right. So once we've passed through 5 checkpoints and reach checkpoint 5, and I'm very specific about how I'm saying this, the loop stops, and actually, well, not and, the loop stops because I is now less than 5. And with I being less or greater, because loop stops because I is now greater than 5 or equal to 5, I should say. This means it's no longer true. And then we finished. We're done. Don't worry about that. So in summary, the code keeps moving your toy car variable I along the track until it passes through 5 checkpoints. At each checkpoint, it tells you which one I'm at. The code passes the car int I through the checkpoints, checks the number it's at, and displays that. And once it's greater than or equal to 5, it ends the loop. And bam, that's it, guys. That's a while condition. That's an easy while condition, don't get me wrong. We'll do some more complicated stuff in the future. But I want to try to keep these videos a little bit shorter so you guys can get them in bite-sized chunks. All right, guys, if you had fun, please remember to like, share, subscribe, whatever. Even commenting helps me. I really want to try to help you guys out. So you guys have a wonderful night.